people pleasers struggle to leave, which is a relief of self, to leave relationships that are no longer serving you. And you could be just totally checked out. The person can be fabulous. Everybody thinks that when somebody leaves a relationship, that it's always that other person. Like, well, what did that person do? Or why was I not good enough? But sometimes you can just grow apart. Like, I tell this to people all the time. As you go through this growth, like let's say you're working with me one on one of the first things I will always tell you is not everybody that starts this journey with you is going to finish this journey with you. They're just not. Because there's versions of you that as you grow, you start going, maybe that isn't what I need in my life. And vice versa. You might not be on their journey either. It's not just about you. But so much of what you'll do at times is go, I just don't want to hurt that person. I mean, I really want to get out, but I really don't want to hurt that person. Okay, that is your ego too. I know you think you're coming from this great place of like goodness, and you might have that initial response, but you staying in a relationship or someone staying in a relationship with you that they're just checked out of. I mean, just checked out. There doesn't have to be this, everybody wants these big reasons. Oh, did they cheat? All of a sudden, if you tell somebody, oh, you know what, I just don't want to be with you anymore. Oh, who is it? It's me. Like, I just don't want to be with you. I don't want to be with anybody right now, right? Not everybody's going to believe that. So what you get yourself caught up in is trying to make it okay for the person, but you're checked out, but you're kind of going through the motions because you got kids, or you just don't want to, like, maybe you're financially dependent, which there's a whole topic coming up on that. But my goodness, you are not doing anybody any favors. Let them be hurt. Okay, let me repeat that. Let them be hurt. Or you go ahead and be hurt if somebody has just gone and said, listen, I'm just not committed to this relationship. The problem that you have when you're dealing with, say, low self-esteem, you're still struggling with some of your own things along the way, is you personalize everything. Somebody doesn't want to be in a relationship, so it's you're not worthy enough. No, I can tell you, sometimes you're just with people. And by the way, this could just be with friends too. It's not just intimate relationships where you just sort of go, that was fun. You'll see that a lot in like early on in like your partying phase, like really partying it up, you're at parties all the time. And then I don't know, maybe you move on, maybe you just say, oh, I don't mind having some social drinks, but I'm not really trying to party all that much. Well, you're going to start, that doesn't mean that you're better than these friends, by the way. It just means that those party friends may not be your center focus. Same thing in relationships. You may just be checked out. You may just be like, you know what? I still have so much work I got to do on myself. I don't have the mental bandwidth to give to another human being to be in a relationship with them. And by the way, you can determine that whenever. Like, it's not like, well, if you knew that ahead of time, why'd you get in a relationship? Because sometimes you don't know that until you're in the relationship, right? And sometimes you'll just glom on to a relationship because of your anxious attachment. That's what this specific week coming up on 142 is about, is on anxious preoccupied attachment. I've done so much on attachment, but as I was going through why people stay in these toxic relationships, and I write stuff down, from my mind and, human behavior, and I'll, these are my notes for this week's podcast. And I usually just, so I have them as point of reference. My ADHD brain, it's there, but I need it organized, right? Organize my thoughts. But as I was writing it down, I was like, wait, there's a lot that's geared towards anxious. There's a lot with any attachment style, but a lot with anxious when it comes to staying in relationships. So I'm doing another podcast this week, 142, 3, maybe 143. I think it's a 143. So ignore what I just said, on this specific thing. And you do not stay in a relationship out of fear of being alone or loneliness. Because you can be in a relationship with 2.5 kids, $1 million house, best job in the world, and be super lonely. So being alone and being lonely are two very different things. Alone is, I'm not really alone. I got you with me. But from a physical perspective right now, I'm alone. I'm not lonely. And I could be by myself for a month and not be lonely. Or I could be with 10 people who I don't really vibe with, and I could be lonely, right? So the big thing is you think that you're doing somebody a favor because you don't want to hurt their feelings. If you are checked out, or if they are checked out, it is not okay to stay in the relationship. for that reason. No, because ultimately you're still hurting the person. They might not know you're hurting them, but if you're checked out and you don't want to be in that relationship anymore, free them up. Free them up. Free them up so they can go and find somebody who does. And just because somebody say they break up with you or they say, hey, listen, I've fallen out of love, that happens. That happens. You're under this illusion of, oh, you're the one. There is no the one. You have various different soulmates for different areas of your life. I mean, that's just how that works. And some will stay and some will not. And that's okay. But what you have to realize is just because somebody falls out of love with you or just because they don't want to be with you doesn't mean that you're not lovable. It just means that that's just where they are in their life. And I promise you, you do not want somebody to stay with you for the sake of your feelings. Because then that's like a pity stay. You're pitying somebody. Oh my God, I don't know that I want to be with them, but I really don't want to hurt them. I guess I'll stay a little bit longer. Like you're doing them some big solid favor. You're not. And they're not. Just because you may have anxious attachment or something else, under no circumstances do you ever beg someone to stay with you, ever, in any way, shape, or form. Why are you doing that? You're putting your worth in their hands. So going back to, that goes into this attachment. See, I'm starting the podcast with you already. But it is so important that if you are checked out, and let's say now listen, they can't read your mind. They cannot read your mind. And have you communicated maybe some issues that you're having? Yet no? Well, then that's on you. That's on you because your weird fear of confrontation, you're like stressed out and pulled back, but they don't even know what's going on. Or maybe you have had the conversation and it's the same rhetoric. It changes for 5 minutes, then it doesn't. Or maybe it's none. Maybe you're just in a decent relationship, but you're just like, yeah, I still want to work on myself. Like, I really want to work on myself. And I promise you this, and I'm talking about this in toxic relationships in a couple weeks. You cannot heal in a toxic environment, period. There's no scenario where you go, well, I'll stay and then I'll work on myself. No, you can stay and start to prepare and start to prep yourself to get out of the relationship in turn. Now we can work on that. Like now we can work on that piece of it, sure. But don't think that you're doing anybody a service under any circumstance of staying if you don't want to be in it. And that, again, isn't just for intimate relationships. That's also in friendships. Stop holding on to people and going, well, we've been friends for 26 years. Yeah, but every time you go get together with this person, you're just like stressed, you're annoyed. Then why are you friends with them? Just because you have time and history, now that goes into more of a disorganized, avoidant attachment, but we're not going to talk about that right now, of the abandonment and like kind of all of this stuff. So, you have to understand that. And I think that when you get clear in it, a lot of times you will say, I want to get out of it. But because you haven't articulated to yourself, well, what does that look like? What steps do I need to make? You're also putting it on the other person. You're also almost blaming the other person for you not leaving. In your head, you're telling yourself, well, I don't want to hurt them. And I believe you don't want to hurt them. But somebody's going to get hurt. You've been hurt. You're going to hurt people. That is welcome to the world of human being living 101. Okay. And so what you have to understand is a lot of times you'll say, I don't want to hurt them. And while there's some truth to that, there's also other truth to the fact that you're like, oh God, but we have 3 properties together. We've got these kids. It's going to be a pain. And I don't want to hurt them. No, I got that. But what it really is that you don't want to deal with is trying to unbox how it is to get out of it. But you know what? Get out of it. If you are checked out, get out. Now, I will say this. If you feel unsafe, if you feel like this could escalate, then we seek external safety precautions, authorities, stuff like that. So yes, there's sometimes that you don't want to get out of it for fear of your own safety. Now we elevate that game. Okay. And I will actually put in this description, I'll put like the domestic hotline in there just so you have it in case you're watching this and you're like, God, I really want to go. I'm checked out and I'm afraid to leave. And I'm going to talk a lot about that in toxic relationships. But this was more or less for you if you're just checked out. This isn't about the safety piece of it. This isn't about all of that because that goes into a whole different thing, but that still doesn't mean that you stay. It just means that you have to be a lot more focused on how you will exit. But this episode is more for if you are just checked out, you're ready to just start dating other people, or you're ready to just not be with them, they're going to get hurt. But you know what? You staying and not wanting to be there hurts them 10 times more. And check yourself and know this: you would much rather them let you down now and say, hey, I'm not into this, than string you along for the sake of your own feelings. Okay. So, with that being said, I think a good thing is to start analyzing some of your relationships and say, are they serving my best and highest good? Is this good for my soul? And if it isn't, well, now we got to think about, you might have to disconnect. And guess what? That's your peace. It's not for anybody else to understand it but you.